Hey guys, what's up? I'm Nitij, and in this video I will be showcasing you a React component which I created after seeing the text inputs of Gmail's email compose, Bing's Copilot, etc. And that is of showing text predictions to a user while they are typing so as to help them complete their words or small sentences. I have used React framework in the front end, Node.js in the backend, and have also integrated OpenAI's GPT-4 API to fetch the predictive text. Also, this is in no way a production ready product, but still if you want to use it, then let me know and I will add the source code to my GitHub account. Let's now see a small demo of this text input. So as you can see over here, there is some partial text which I have typed, and after this partial text there is a suggestion which this input is providing to help me to complete my partial sentence or partial text so that it will be easier and faster for me to complete or compose the text which I am typing in this input. So here is how it works. First, a user can start typing such as hello, how are y. So instead of how are you, I have simply written only y, and the text input has provided me a suggestion to go with which says how are you doing today. Now I can either accept this suggestion by pressing tab, or I can ignore it by continue to writing what I was writing. So if I will press tab, then this suggestion is going to be accepted and then I can keep on writing the text. So for example, I can place a question mark over here and then I haven't. So instead of writing haven't completely, I have just written it partially, and this predictive text has given me suggestion based on the context of what I have already written. So again, I can either press the tab key, or I can also click on this tab icon over here to accept this suggestion. Okay, so as far as code walkthrough is concerned, it is not really feasible for me to demonstrate the coding part of this component from scratch, but still I will show you step by step how I made this React component along with the backend, and what challenges I faced, and also what solutions I came up with to build this text input. Alright, so this is Visual Studio Code, and there are two parts to this project. First part is of the client and the second part is of the server. So for client we have React, and for server we have Node.js. This component is named as predictive text and it is directly being used with the app component. Now let me show you step by step how I build this. So the first challenge that I had for this text input was for the user to keep typing and also to provide the suggestion after the user's typed text. Now a normal text input is not sufficient for that, because with a normal text input we will not be able to provide this predictive text after the user's text. And I also wanted to show this this is styled tab text to let the user know that they can press the tab button or click on this tab text to accept the suggestion. For this reason I have created a parent div, which is this one, and this div has two children. The first child, which is a span, has the content editable attribute set to true. Now what this does is, this attribute when set to true, it makes any HTML element as an editable input. So it could be a div, it could be a span, it could be a button, whatever it is. If this attribute is true, you will be able to edit the contents of that element. And with React we have to add this attribute as well, otherwise React is going to complain that you are using an HTML element with content editable set to true. Now the second span in this parent div is to show our predictive text input. So this entire text which we can edit is in the first span, and this predictive text right up to this styled tab text is in the second span. The AI text state value is being used to store the predictive text, and as you can see, Tailwind's utility classes have been applied to the text suggestion span along with the tab text span as well. Now for the first span, which is editable, there are two event handlers. First one is for on input and second one is for on key down. So on input is simply going to update the user text state value. So let me show you. The user text state value is being used to store the user's text. AI text, as I have already mentioned, is to store the AI generated predictive text suggestion, and loading state is simply being used to tell the user that the input is loading the suggestions. Alright, so for the handle input function, it is setting the user text with the target element's inner text, which in our case is the first span. But we cannot set the value directly. We have to validate the value first, and in this case I had to remove the last new line character because of the way how new lines are inserted in a content editable span. Next, we need to show the predictive text suggestion only when the cursor is at the end after a user has stopped typing, and there is a debounce timeout being applied, which simply means that whenever the user will input any character, then this debounce timeout is going to be reset. So the fetch suggestions function is only going to be called after the 1500 millisecond delay has been completed for the last typed character. For the content editable spans on keydown event, there is a function which is named as handle keydown. Now handle keydown is handling two key inputs. The first one is for the tab key. So whenever the tab key is pressed, then the predictive text suggestion is simply accepted and merged with the user's text. We also need to handle the enter key press. Now what happens is, in a content editable span, when we press enter, then two line break elements are added. What this does is it adds two new lines to the content editable span. So for our input to work, we always have to remove the last new line whenever the enter key has been pressed, and this logic is doing simply that. It is removing the last line break and is inserting an empty text node. This is the only way which I have found this is going to work. Okay, so after this content editable span, let's also check out the click event of the parent div. So whenever the parent div is clicked anywhere, then we simply have to focus the first editable span, and this is being done with this focus content editable function. And in the end, we have another div which simply shows this text loading AI suggestions whenever the loading state value is true. Now this is completely unnecessary, and if you plan to use this component in your application, then you can simply remove it to give your users a fluid experience that they are seeing the suggestions after they are done typing. Okay, so this was about the React part, and now let's come to the backend Node.js server part. So the server.js file contains the logic to call the OpenAI's API and provide it a prompt, which is this one, and also provided our current text which the user has entered in the input, and then the AI is going to return us its predictive text, which we are simply going to return in the form of JSON. Now if you want to learn more about how this entire thing is being done, then you can check out the OpenAI's documentation regarding how to invoke the API and provide all the necessary input arguments. So guys, that was everything about building this AI-based predictive text integration in a React application. I hope you found this walkthrough helpful and that it sparks ideas for your own projects. If you enjoyed this video and found it informative, please consider subscribing to this channel. Your support motivates me to create more content like this. Thank you for watching and happy coding.